Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This video is the final part of our trip to Argentina, and in this part we visited the Iguazu Falls on the Argentinian side. So Iguazu Falls are located on sort of the intersection of three countries: Argentina, Brazil and Paraguay, and the falls you can see from either the Argentinian or Brazilian side. You can also visit both sides if you have enough time. In our case, we only went to the Argentinian side. So we landed in Puerto Iguazu, the airport on the Argentinian side, and then got a shuttle that departs around every hour from the airport to sort of the heart of the town, the Iguazu town. The reason why we went to the town is because, first of all, we were really hungry and wanted to eat something. And secondly, we had our luggage with us. So we heard there are lockers at the main bus stations. And fair enough, we found the lockers. So if you need lockers, keep that in mind. You can find them at this station. Later, we also found out that the lockers at the gates of the Iguazu Park are also open. However, most of them are either medium or small. So if you have large suitcases, and we had quite a large one, it might not fit there and you might have to go back, all the way back to the city. We also bought tickets for the private shuttle that goes, I think, every half an hour and brings you right to the entrance of Iguazu Falls on the Argentinian side. That whole detour to the city center took almost maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours because the distances are quite large. We ended up entering the Iguazu Park at around 1 p.m. Originally, we were also hoping to visit the Brazilian side on the same day, but then we quickly realized that we wouldn't be able to. So we decided to take the most of the Argentinian side, and it also turned out that it wasn't even enough. So if you want to see everything the Iguazu Falls has to offer, you probably need to come there for the entire day. That of course depends on your ability to tolerate heat. So we were there in November and it was 45 degrees Celsius. Extremely hot, and as you can imagine, also humid because you are always in a close proximity to water. And I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit tough, unless of course you come from the south and that's normal weather for you. But for us it wasn't, we struggled a little bit. So in order to explore the Argentinian side, you need to walk on a lot of those paths. So there are three main routes, the most touristic routes that everyone has to visit. And unfortunately, one of them, the one that provides the most epic views, called the Devil's Throat, was closed due to a lot of storm damage, and it was closed for quite a while. It was closed exactly in November 2023 when we were visiting the Argentinian side. So we couldn't do this one, but we could do the other two, the lower circle and the upper circle, and each of them takes around 1 hour to complete. So there is a lot of walking involved. There's also a train that actually connects some of the areas of the park, and the train brings you to the Devil's Throat. I actually confirmed, and the Devil's Throat path is now fully open. So if you can do it and if you want to do it, I 100% recommend you to do it, because everyone says that the views from there are the best ones and the most impressive ones. But as I mentioned before, you can take a train, and you can actually take the train from the entrance right to the start of the lower circle. Also, the train connects you to some other areas of the park. You can take the train to the Devil's Throat. So if you get tired from walking, it's too hot for you, you have little children with you, or people with limited mobility, train might be a good option for you. But keep in mind that the train, first of all, it's free, but it operates every 30 minutes. It does get quite full and quite crowded, because we've seen people pretty much queuing for the train, even though it was supposed to arrive in about 15 minutes. So that's something to keep in mind. And of course, if you're planning to take the train, you will need more time to spend in the park. It's usually very hard to decide which side to visit, the Argentinian one or the Brazilian one. In our case, the Argentinian side was a little bit more convenient for us, so we decided to go for it. Besides, our friends visited the Brazilian side, so we wanted to compare sort of our photos and our experiences, and we went for the Argentinian side, even though the Devil's Throat was closed. But if you have more time, you can visit both. If nothing is stopping you from spending a couple of days in Iguazu and spending the first day on the Argentinian side and then crossing the border and visiting the Iguazu Falls on the Brazilian side, then you can totally do that. And there are also lots of nice hotels where you can stay overnight. They range for kind of a variety of budgets from affordable to very, very expensive. Some of the most affordable hotels are, of course, located within the towns in Foz do Iguaçu in Brazil and Porto Iguaçu in Argentina, and then the posher or kind of more luxurious hotels like the one from Belmont are located much closer to the waterfalls. I think Belmont is actually one of the very few ones that is located on the territory of the falls, and I think you can actually see the falls from the territory of the hotel and maybe even from some rooms. I will leave the link to some of the hotels in the description of the video, so feel free to check it out if you're interested. So what are the things you can do on the Argentinian side of the Iguazu Falls, besides, of course, what I mentioned? So first of all, there are 3 trails, as I mentioned: the upper trail, the lower trail, and the Devil's Throat, which I mentioned before. The upper trail, in my opinion, is slightly more impressive compared to the lower trail, and you will probably spend a bit more time taking photos and enjoying and kind of soaking in the stunning views you'll see from the upper trail. But there is also one more activity you can take, and it's the boat tour. So the boat tour is basically a tiny boat. You buy separate tickets for this boat tour. Those tickets are a little pricey, so they are not included in the entry price of the Iguazu Falls National Park. But the boat provides you with a slightly different perspective and the view of the waterfalls. So you can take some stunning pictures, but that, of course, if you have a fully waterproof camera, because keep in mind that if you take a boat tour, you will get completely soaked. I think if they will offer you a dry pack if you want to store all your things, or you can store them at the locker as well. But I don't recommend taking any photos with a camera that is not fully waterproof, otherwise you might risk losing it forever. We didn't end up taking a boat tour. We actually had a choice between going to the upper circle or taking a boat tour, and we asked the sales representative for the boat tour which one should we do, and he recommended the upper circle even though he was the boat representative. But if we had a bit more time, I think we would have totally done the boat tour. Our friends actually did the boat tour on the Brazilian side, and they immensely enjoyed it. So it's a fun activity that I can definitely recommend if you have time and money. There's also a little nature trail that you can do. I think it takes around 2 hours, maybe a bit less, depending of course on your speed to complete. And it's a little bit off the beaten path. So if you want to explore the jungle, that's something you might be interested in. And finally, if you ever want to take a stop, there are plenty of shops all around the Iguazu Falls where you can buy some cold water, and trust me, you will need it, especially if you're going in November, and some snacks as well. And there are also some restaurants that you can visit and rest for a little while. In the end, we actually ended up leaving Iguazu Falls around 1 hour before the closing times. We took the shuttle back to the town. The shuttle wasn't actually that busy, although there was a queue, but everybody fitted in the shuttle, and they go fairly often. But of course, if you're leaving at the closing time together with the hordes of people, you might end up waiting for a little longer. And once we got back into the town, we grabbed our bags and flagged a taxi. So instead of waiting for another bus, we decided to cross the border with Brazil by taxi. And it ended up being so smooth because apparently there is actually a separate border control queue for taxis, and you don't actually almost need to do anything. You get the stamps super easy. In our case, there were only 2 taxis in front of us, and we were in Brazil in absolutely no time. I think the whole journey with passing the border took around maybe 20 minutes, and we were in our hotel in Brazil the same day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below and I will try to answer them if I can. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video from Brazil. Bye!